At the 2014-2016 budget stakeholders meeting in Accra Wednesday morning, these stakeholders in the economic and social development sector made their various inputs into what government should consider in shaping the 2014-2016 budget. The Executive Director of ISODEC, Mr. Akologo Bishop, advised government to address activities that generate diminishing returns and concentrate on developing other sectors of the economy.
First thing is that we need to reconceptualize how we approach economic policy making. We have to address the issue of diminishing returns. Diminishing returns is what is going to kill our country if we don't restructure the way we think about the economics of development. I'm talking about activities that, if you combine the other factors with those, you get less returns as the years go by. My name is Akologo Bishop. I work for ISODEC. Now, if you don't change the way we do that, we will not be able to create the jobs. We will not be able to even contain the people that you've given passports in my village to come to Accra. All activities, including your mining, your petroleum, we have to tax them appropriately. And then my brother from the AGI will get enough respite so he doesn't have to pay too much taxes, and we can even give him the support to create their jobs. Without manufacturing, we cannot make it to the next level. Natural resource-based development is not reliable anywhere, and countries have always tried to use it to jump to the next level. And we have to begin to look at ways to do that now. In the next 3 to 4 years, if we don't find that formula, forget about even if you find 1 more billion barrels of oil, it won't take you nowhere. We've shown that in gold. How many years do we exploit gold? Where are we? So we have to reorganize our natural resources as a catalyst to invest away from natural resource dependence into high-earning activities.
A research fellow at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research will rather call for the reintroduction of the increment in VAT as a solution to boost the country's economy.
The current deficit situation is such that we really need to start thinking about how to get around reducing it, because it is actually piling up on our debt situation in an adverse way. Now, typically how you deal with deficits is to look at one of the two arms, right? You look at either your spending arm or your revenue arm. The point I was making is that in terms of the expenditure, if you take your interest payments, if you take your personnel emoluments, those alone cover significant chunk of your expenditure. So if you take those things out of your spending, there is very little room, fiscal space, for doing any other thing. And so whilst it is true that we can create some fiscal space from the spending arm by improving the efficiency of spending, which includes the targeting of our expenditure, we also need to start seriously thinking about the revenue arm. And I'm saying, when we are thinking about the revenue arm, in my mind, I think that we should bring back.
A Deputy Minister of Finance, George Rickett-Hagan, says government is on course in ensuring that the country's economy is vibrant and appealed for foreign investors to invest in the country.
Government has also put in place measures to generate additional revenue, control expenditure, and improve efficiency in public spending. These measures include revenue administration measures such as field monitoring, debt recovery, and compliance enforcement to improve revenue efficiency are being intensified. Recently, new taxes have been approved by Parliament, which will help rake in more revenue. Government presence in the international Eurobond market is consistent with government objective to restructure the debt portfolio, leading to reduced borrowing costs, improve the fiscal space, and make room for capital investment and economic growth while maintaining debt sustainability.
Thanks so much for staying there. My name is Bright Nana Amfo, and this very forum, a lot of sentiments were raised about Ghana's economy. We'll try and find out if the call for a complete retooling of the country's economic policy is what is needed to move the country into the middle income upper status. Let me speak to John Gachi, a chartered economist, and with the University of Cape Coast Business School. John, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, too.
Now, first of all, John, let's look at this. Now, these stakeholders in Ghana's economy are asking government to totally revise the country's economic policy if Ghana should achieve the upper middle income status. Let me first of all pick your brains on this.
Well, I think that is necessary. Because the problem that we have encountered in the country over the past 20 years, we still encounter the same problems. We still have a cycle of current account deficit. We still have a cycle of budget deficit and, for that matter, fiscal deficit in the country. We still concentrate on few commodities for our export activities. We still have a cycle of reducing our international reserve between 2.5, 18 months import cover. These are the things that we keep on experiencing over a long period of time. And therefore, any call to revise our national economic policy to reflect on the new status that we have as a middle-income country, I think is in the right direction.
Yes.
But I must quickly add that this call means that we need to be looking at a strategic approach rather than trying to solve the current situation in which we are. So I look at that call purely as a long-term approach to moving forward our economic agenda.
John, you mentioned a couple of issues that are worrying the economy. For instance, the issue of fiscal deficit almost every year or every election year and others. Now, is this something that the managers of the economy create for the economy, or it is as a result of perhaps international shocks, and so we go into these difficulties?
I think we can discuss this in twofold. One is as a result of our own inability to implement policies that will help us as we go along in our economic path. Then the other one, as a result of these weaknesses, we are forced to actually take some of the packages from the international community to try to solve our problems. We are not grown, customized to our situation to help us effectively to solve our problem. Then we have also a cycle of problems in the international financial market, international geopolitics, and all these things affect our country. For example, if you look at what is happening in the U.S. economy right now, it is likely to affect the situation with respect to our foreign currency going forward. We have seen the effect of the global financial crisis. We are also seeing some marginal effect of the debt crisis in Europe on our economy. So international development also affects us a lot.
John,
we can also add that we have also seen a cycle of volatility with respect to commodity prices for our major exports. We are again experiencing that, which means that we should have taken decisions as to what we should do with our export portfolio. For a long period of time, we have not been able to do that effectively. So these are all having impact on our economy. So if they are calling for that, then it means that we need a holistic approach going forward into the future. But that prescription cannot be good for the short-term situation in which we have.
Right, George.
We find ourselves.
John, I will let us go into if we should them back on a total review of our economic policy. I'll let us go into where. Which direction we should go. But first of all, these stakeholders are also asking that we should stop the over-reliance, the dependence on natural resources, the gold, the cocoa. Now, this issue of the Gadgetsburg economy started way back. Every government has said we are attempting to move away from the Gadgetsburg economy, and yet we find ourselves in. Is this something we can overcome?
Well, I do not think that our language should be over-reliance on natural resources, but the language should be an effective deployment of natural resource revenue to developing the other sectors which will key to the wealth of this nation.
Right.
How we are going to deploy the resources that we get from the natural resources into the key sensitive sectors of our economy, such as agriculture,
right,
industry, manufacturing, security, waste management, in the country to bring about improvement in life, living standard for our people, the dignity of our people, and job creation for the people of Ghana. I believe that should be the language, and we should be proffering solutions to doing that.
John, hold the line for me. Let me speak to Professor Peter Quarty of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. He just joined this discussion. Prof, thanks so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Prof, at the forum, the language was that we need a total review, if I should put it that way, of our economic policy if we are to achieve the upper middle income status that we are targeting. Now, how do we do this?
Sorry, can you repeat what you said?
I'm asking that the call for a total review of our economic policy if Ghana is to achieve the upper middle income status is what the forum discussed, and which government assured we are working at it. Now, how can we achieve this?
Well, I think what we need basically is economic transformation. I don't think we've gotten there yet. We've seen services taking over agriculture, but we need proper transformation where we'll be processing more of agricultural products, where we would promote manufacturing, where we would promote value addition. So whatever we generate or economic activity that we are doing currently, there should be conscious policy shift or policy directions to ensure that we enhance productivity in our product activities and thereby promote value addition. That would help us generate more revenue, and of course we can then move from our lower middle income status to an upper middle income one. But bearing in mind that we also have to cut on spending, and we make not just cut on spending, but cut on wasteful spending and make spending or expenditure, government expenditure, more efficient in terms of where they actually needed or necessary.
Prof, this issue of talking about adding value, it's not new. Almost every government have one way or the other spoken about it, put together policies that are supposed to arrive at this particular value-added product. And yet, we seem not to be making headway. Where can we place the problem? Where can we identify the problem?
Then what it means is we are not putting the resources at the right places. Now, let's take agriculture. You and I know that the basic hoe and the cutlass have been the main implement since time immemorial. And that is what continues to be practiced. The small-scale farmer continues to use the basic implements. We have spoken about irrigation for far too long. But how much have we gone in terms of ensuring irrigation? How do we ensure that whatever resources we put into land, we ensure that land is more efficiently utilized? In terms of seedlings, to what extent are we using improved seedlings in producing? And I think this is where typical examples where we haven't really added value is the same old production techniques that we use and many others. If you go to other sectors, this is basically the same thing. So yes, we speak about we are putting investment of money into enhancing value addition, but we have not actually put in the resources where we should actually be putting in the resources. And for me, that is where we have a challenge.
So
let's improve seedlings, let's improve irrigation, let's promote commercial farming, commercial agriculture.
Prof, so the suggestion here is that the funding is there, but perhaps it is not going to the right place.
Yes, certainly. That's in my view. Let's compare how much of our land have we irrigated from whatever period. And let's look at historical data and show clearly how much of agricultural land we have irrigated in this country. So when we see statements being made in budget statements and policy documents that we are going to do this, we are going to do that, to what extent are we doing them? Let's look at the figures. Let's look at the values. Then we can say, yes, we are adding value. But in my view, we haven't done much as far as what is
can Ghana as a country, we have gone far. If we go back to when we began this democratic journey, 1992, from the PNDC time, the adjustment programs that we have gone through all the way to where we are, can we as a country turn things round, looking at where we're going and where we have come from?
Yes, I must say we have made some strides. But looking at, in terms of democracy, yes, we have done very much in that respect, but we are highly respected for not having fought each other, even where we had closely contested elections. We've had very good political stability, which is good, promotes the grounds for foreign direct investment and other local investment.
Right.
But when it comes to our own local economy, I think there's much to be done. If you compare Burkina Faso to us now, they are doing more irrigation than we are doing. Now we tend to import agricultural products from Burkina Faso. Now, why is that the case? And that is where I think there is a policy failure. It is through policy that Burkina Faso is doing more irrigation now than before.
So Professor Quartey, you not subscribe to the argument that perhaps the private sector is not being that vibrant enough, because government is always saying that, look, I'm creating the enabling environment for private sector to thrive, and yet we are importing foodstuff from Burkina Faso. Is the private sector not being vibrant enough, or the so-called enabling environment isn't there?
If you speak to a private businessman and ask whether the so-called enabling environment has been provided, I'm sure you get the answer.
He will say no.
So when it comes to electricity, let's be realistic. If it comes to electricity, to what extent do you have reliable power supply that the businessman can produce and sell? Once you start business, you have to get a standby generator. That is one. Water, the same thing. You have to get a reservoir. Telephone, almost virtually credit. The cost of credit. So where lies the enabling environment? We keep hammering every day that there is enabling environment. I think we can do better than this. What we are doing now, we are not helping the private sector to be the engine of growth that we want it to be.
Thank you so much, Professor Peter Quartey, Head of Economics Department of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research there. John Gachi, Chartered Economist, is on phone. Now, John, thanks so much for staying there. Now, the call was that if we were to move from the lower income status to an upper middle income status, then we need to have a total review of our economic policy. I want us to try and see, how do we do this review? Which direction should we chart?
Well, I think the direction is very clear. We have been talking about the directions over and over again. But I think what is missing is a strong commitment to this thing that we have identified. We have already identified that we should add value to agriculture. We should actually engage in commercial agriculture. If you look at the structure of agriculture in the country, basically, for me, it is private sector led.
Right.
But the kind of private sector involved in agriculture is not the kind that will move the country forward into that agribusiness that we want to find ourselves. So we need to define the kind of environment that we want to create, specifically in agriculture, that will attract the private sector into investing in commercial agriculture and modernized agriculture. Because if you just lump sum the kind of environment that you are providing, good governance,
right,
the democracy, without defining specific environment that you want to create within the agriculture sector to attract the new form of private investment into agriculture that we want, I believe we will not be able to do that. So I think that we have the policies in place. We know the policies, but commitment to defining the clear-cut environment, especially in agriculture, which we are all talking about, is where the problem lies.
And do you see governments in a position to make this happen? Because from 92, I always want to go back to 92 because of democratic dispensation. From 92, the talk has been add value to what you produce. The talk has been, I have created the enabling environment. The talk is the private sector is the engine of growth. And yet we are still here today, 2013, talking about the fact that we still need to create this environment. We still need to make the private sector the engine of growth. Are governments able to push this agenda? And should they fail? Is this something we should not blame them for?
Well, I think since 1992, the successive government have contributed to creating an enabling environment for every sector of the economy. In fact, we have seen increasing number of private sector participation in agro-processing across the country. But I think that the process has been in piecemeal approach. It is not elaborate enough to actually bring about the massive revolution that we want to see in agriculture to enhance economic growth and development in the country. So we need to do more to actually enhance the environment within agriculture. We have seen some improvements, but it is in piecemeal. It is not holistic enough. It's not enhancing enough. That is what we should focus on to be able to solve some of the problems that we are talking about. If you talk about the cocoa subsector,
right?
In recent time, we have seen some kind of value addition, but it's still, piecemeal approach. We need a holistic approach that will actually bring about diversification within the cocoa sector and the other food crops that we have in the country. We have not seen that massive approach. I think that is where the problem is lying. If we're able to do that, then we will be able to attract private sector to the sector. You remember some time ago when the commercial farmers in Zimbabwe had problems. Ghana was supposed to be one of the destinations that they should relocate. But they couldn't do that because of the fact that if they compare the environment of commercial agriculture in Zimbabwe to that of Ghana, it doesn't meet the standard. So they could not operate here. So we need to rethink about the specific environment in agriculture.
And that should help us to get us to where we want to go. Thank you so much, John Gachi, a chartered economist, also with the University of Cape Coast Business School, talking to me there about Ghana's economy. And of course, this is an issue that we'll be talking about. Don't also forget that the finance minister, Mr. Tekpe, earlier in the day, has been talking about Ghana's economy, and he confirmed that there was slow growth. The first quarter really achieved more growth than the second quarter. And we'll be telling you more about this particular issue later on. But don't also forget that the president at the UN General Assembly spoke about the fact that Ghana's economy is so vibrant and is ready to achieve all these targets. But a lot more of you have been talking about how to push this economy forward to achieve the upper middle income status. Let's watch and listen.
If these resources, that's the oil and whatever comes out of it, it's crude oil, and we have several things that could come out of it. If all these things are manageable, we could get maybe other resources to support our economy. Now, apart from that, I believe that if the government is also able to invest in people, there are people that are knowledgeable. Other countries are kind of tapping the knowledge of the people that we have. Nurses are going out. We have consultants out there who are also working for countries. And these are people that are knowledgeable. And I believe that if these people come here and whatever they know, they are able to give it to us. They are able to, as it were, contribute to the development of the nation. And then perhaps we can also have other revenue, so that maybe the burden that is put on the cocoa and the gold, could be kind of minimized a little. Look at gold now, because the prices is down. A lot of people are going to lose their job.
And of course, a lot more of you have been speaking to us through our social media platform. We'll read it more when we get to the other side of the show, the JN Interactive segment, where you get to us and we get to you through our social media platform. Thanks so much for staying there. I'm coming back in a moment with Marian for the next segment of the show. Thank you so much. Stay there. I'm coming back in a moment.